Okay, we're going to go into World 1.2 to pick up some equipment in a moment. Let's do some housekeeping first.
That hairpin, that belongs to my daughter. Then she didn't make it after all. But may I ask you a favor? Would you mind giving up that hairpin?
So Thomas here wants his daughter's jade hairpin that we picked up from the Boletaurian castle in 1.1 from when we cut the chains. We give him
You're a saint.
hair ornament.
Thank you. Oh, it's not, but it's him anyway.
And he gives us this useful ring that will increase our carry load. Very useful for
Hello again.
farming.
Thank you.
And again, I'm going to give him all the ores. Don't need that right now. Don't need that right now. Okay. Not going to use the Bastard Sword right now. And you know what? I'm probably not going to use the crossbow again. Drop that off for now.
You have a heart of gold.
So I'm going to lay off upgrading any weapons for now as well. Let's have a look at leveling
Brave
up.
so prithee, lull the old one back to its ancient slumber. What is it? Dost thou see? So be it. After all, go forth. Let these own soul of the mind key to
And
life's
here,
ether. Soul of the lost,
unlike
drawn
Dark Souls
from its
2,
vessel.
they got
Let
how
strength
to
be
do
granted
this
so the
leveling
world
up
might be mended,
with a character right the first time.
so the world
She
might
says
be
her
mended.
cool little sort of rhyme or incantation while you're on this screen, and it is cool. The voice acting is excellent. The incantation is memorable and invocative. It's just a very cool character. It's very well done, and I don't know how they managed to get it so right this time and get it wrong in Dark Souls 2. But anyway, that's a conversation I think to go into longer another time. What do I want to level up here? I can probably level up 3 or 4 times. So what I want to be able to do is use the winged spear when I get it. I want to be able to use a bow when I get it. I think I need to have dexterity 12 for that at a guess. I think I've probably got enough strength. Let's throw it up by 1 in case. And let's have a bit of vitality, because if I get breathed on, I want to live.
Art thou done?
Yep.
Main thine.
And now let's go in. Oops. So I'm just going to do the very early part of 1.2 here, and essentially run across the first dragon bridge, stick the fire resistance ring on in case I get burned. I'm going to grab the winged spear on the way, hopefully pick up the right glowy, and then grab the wooden catalyst, which should be at the top of the first tower if I recall correctly, and then run back out of there. I don't really need to do anything much else at this stage. I'm going to pick up other bits and pieces along the way. Sharp stone. Did I get anything else? No. Okay. Just grab a couple of other bits here. Some half. Got this area down here.
Hello!
You yonder!
Strava is trapped.
Look at me. Clear the...
I'm not going to rescue him now, though. I'll show you what I think the best route is for doing that when I come back and do 1-2 properly. Let's kill these guys off there. I always forget I have those throwing knives. I don't think they're too much use. Unlike fire bombs, which do quite a lot of damage, the throwing knives don't do much. But they're probably quite useful for pulling single enemies out of groups. So, the dragon's about to come down, so let's make sure we've got the Ring of Flame resistance on. Don't need that. Let's put the Crescent Moon Thrust back in there. And so my strategy here is I'm going to wait for him. You can see he's there on the right. He's going to come overhead, and I'm going to run, grab the second glowy. Ignore the first one, I think it's just some grass. This one, however, should be the winged spear. Oh dear, fluff that up a bit. Come on. Okay. So I messed that up. I almost made it, but probably because I had to turn around there to grab the winged spear. You see I got burnt, but I survived. Possibly I might have survived that because I upgraded my vitality a bit. If I hadn't had the Ring of Flame resistance on, but given that I did have the Ring of Flame resistance on, I actually survived. If you get burned and knocked over in the middle, I would strongly suggest you just run and make it get to safety and then heal up later. Come on. Oh. So this is what I'm here for, the wooden catalyst, which this will now allow me to cast sorceries. And that's it. I'm essentially done what I've come here to get on this level. So I could use a Shard of Archstone to get out of here. I could go and finish the level, but that's not what I'm here to do. Just gonna grab this. Till after the next one and then really run for it, and hopefully I'll manage to not get burned. Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Come on, dude. Okay, so I got clipped. I actually think I didn't get burned there. I think I got hit by his claws. You can see I took about a third of my life there, but that's fine. I'm not going to now take any more damage before I get back to the Archstone, so no, not worth healing there. Yeah, I should probably have consumed some soul items actually and leveled up a few more times. Let's do that now. So, I don't want the Vanguard soul. Phalanx's soul I'm happy to eat, because I don't want the scraping spear. I don't think it gives any spells. And because I'm doing a no deaths run, I'm just happy to eat souls in general. There's no chance I will lose them by dying and then not reclaiming my souls. Let's see what this does for me.
Thou then soul of the mind, key to life's ether. Soul of the lost, withdrawn from
Actually,
its I
first,
shall await. I am here.
let me just check out. So here... Oh, sorry. Let's see. So 1312, I can use the wing spear, that's fine. Let's put the catalyst there. I didn't grab the bow, that was on the second tower. So I'm alright for now. I don't really need any more strength or dex.
Thou seekest the soul of the mind, key to life's ether.
Go up endurance
Soul
a
of the
bit.
lost, withdrawn from
Grab some
its vessel.
vitality, because fundamentally that
Let
translates to
strength be
survival.
granted so the world might be mended. Art thou done? Mend that.
Now, I did grab the club. If at this point, I would be tempted to upgrade the club if it was upgradable. But the club and the great club are not upgradable weapons at all. And we're going to go into 4.1 and try and get some very, very cool kit. Now, this can seem like a bit of a scary area. My top tip for this area is basically block. The skeletons here... Oh, and wear the Thief's Ring, by the way. You will get overwhelmed, swarmed by enemies if you don't wear the Thief's Ring. You'll get shot from the sky a lot more if you don't wear the Thief's Ring. So tip number 1, wear the Thief's Ring. Tip number 2, make sure you have 100% blocking shield with as high a stability, as they call it in Dark Souls, or they call it in Demons again. Guard break reduction. As high guard break reduction as you can. And block. Now there is a certain attack that the skeletons do that essentially breaks through your shield. It reduces your stamina to 0 and staggers you. But their follow-up attacks will typically come out slower than it takes for you to come back from that stagger, regain some stamina, and get your shield up again, at which point they will bounce off your shield and go into a stun state and you can start beating them. And I'll demonstrate this. Hopefully without... So here we go. Dead. And they give a nice amount of souls. This world is the single best world for getting souls, which is quite nice thematically. So for example, World 5 is very bad for getting souls. This is the one that breaks your guard, but look, I keep blocking, and there's nothing... I clumsily changed to using my club to block there. But you get the point. Just trust in your shield, block, and make sure you're taking them on one at a time. Now, because I've got the Thief's Ring on, the archer here has seen me, but the skeleton standing slightly higher up on the stairs hasn't. Whereas if I wasn't wearing the Thief's Ring, he'd be all over me, and the archer would be shooting me, and so on. Now, there's two things you can do here. Why not demonstrate it? Two soul arrows and he's down. And now I can move on. The other thing you can do is just aggro this guy. And then just sort of move out of melee range. Sorry, move out of range of the archer and sort of move away to fight this this skeleton. But anyway, the soul arrow trick works pretty well. Anyway, just take your time. And they take a lot of damage from blunt, so even though a club is not as good a weapon as say an upgraded sword or spear in general, it is doing an awful lot of damage to them. And they'll typically go down in 2 or 3 hits. So here, there's 2 or 3 items on the ground here that I could run around and get shot at to get them. One of them's a talisman on the right here. What I'm actually going to do is run down near the ground. You see I've got targeted now. Shoot you twice. Get shot. That wasn't part of the script. Shoot them. They're dead. Now I can collect these safely. Looking very macho with an arrow sticking through my chest. There's 2 talismans of God in the game to collect. The other one is in 5.1, which is quite important to know because you can trade them with the Hawk Girl. I think she gives you a colourless demon soul, which is a very important artifact. Now, I'm going to do something difficult now. So I'm probably going to go quiet in a second and just fight this guy. This is... there's a black skeleton through here, and they're the most dangerous enemies in the level. The important thing with these guys is not so much trust your shield. You have to use rolls against these guys because they do so much stamina block damage to your shield that they'll break through, and they do a ferocious amount of damage when they hit you as well. So I'll catch blows on the shield if I can't roll them, but I'm basically going to roll them, and I'm looking for opportunities to backstab and then follow up with a flurry of blows. This is definitely the most dangerous bit of the game I've faced so far, and there's a small chance I could die here. But it's worth it, because arguably the best weapon in the game is sitting behind him. And actually, I'm going to briefly talk about what I mean by best weapon in the game. By my perspective, when I talk about best weapon in the game, for something to be classified as the best weapon in the game, it has to be a weapon that is available for most of the game. There's no point saying something is the best weapon in the game if it's something that is only available in the last, say, 10% of the game, because you're not playing it. You don't have that weapon throughout most of the game. So what I'm looking for when I say a best weapon in the game, best spell in the game, and so on, is a useful tool that you're going to use for most of the game. And the Crescent Falchion, which is sitting behind this black skeleton down here, is definitely that, as you will hopefully see if I win this fight. So anyway, I'm going to shut up, try and concentrate, and watch my strats here. Well, it looks easy when it works. A nice amount of souls off him, and this beauty. So a +1 Crescent Falchion. So normally to get a Crescent Falchion, I think you have to get the weapon to make an item a Crescent weapon. I think you have to get it to, it's either +3 or +6 with standard upgrades at Ed the Blacksmith, the second blacksmith, and then you have to start enchanting it with Dark Moonstone. So it's a difficult and expensive thing to do. Whereas there's just that Falchion sitting there with that power already. So now I'm going to take that club out of my hand and put the beautiful, beautiful Crescent Falchion there, which, as I'm sure plenty of you know, does plenty of magical damage in addition to its physical damage, but even better than that, regenerates your mana points whenever it's sitting in your hand, which is just ridiculously good. and the more you level this this beautiful weapon up, the more it regenerates your mana points. So at +1, it's regenerating something. I can't remember the table. It's like 1 point every 5 or 6 seconds, and then it does it a bit faster when it reaches level +3, and then it does it faster again when it reaches +5. And it's not horribly difficult to get the Dark Moonstone to do that from this world. A little bit of farming required, mostly farming of Reapers and farming of the Crystal Lizards, and being careful not to fall off cliffs, usually fighting a few of the black skeletons on the way, which is a little bit dangerous when you're, somebody like me, very average gamer, not brilliantly good at the game. But you can get this weapon to +3, +4, +5, not too difficult. It's not too difficult to do that. You can do that quite early in the game. It's regenerating your mana. Its moveset is quite good. It's fast. It's got medium range. It's even got bleed on it, which is occasionally useful in fights. It's just a fantastic weapon. It's almost too good, and it's just sitting there a third of the way or less into 4.1, and that's why it's worth grabbing a club early, going half naked into a fight with a really quite dangerous enemy in order to risk getting this weapon. And as I was sitting there, chatting to you, my mana was regenerating, so more soul arrows. Timed that very well, but strangely that attack actually doesn't do enormous amounts of damage. So these flying stingrays, worth switching, keeping your soul arrow up and switching to your catalyst and quickly whipping off a soul arrow if they come close. You'll just shoot them straight out the air. They don't have a lot of hit points. If you've got the Thief's Ring, they don't notice you from a very long distance away, but they will occasionally be shooting you while you're on the ground. Where that's most dangerous is near cliff edges, and when you're in the middle of fights. They will essentially distract you to death on many occasions. So here there's two possible routes. We can go down here and take a frontal route to the next part. I'm trying to get to the vendor on this level, who's locked in a cage. I've just grabbed the copper key to free him. Or I can go through the Vanguard, you can see down there. Now, I used to take the frontal route, but I actually think the ambush with two skeletons, one coming from each side, is riskier than going past the Vanguard. So I'm going to take the frontal approach. This guy has a lot more hit points than the Vanguard in the tutorial, by the way. Here's a Cloudstone that Stingray just dropped when I shot him. Killage, which is quite a large, like a larger version of the Falchion, basically. Just be careful here. Almost an aggro radius, even with the Thief's Ring on. Oh, look. That's a good way to get killed. I have actually been killed by that guy in that position before. Okay. So, since I have lots and lots of mana, I'm just going to blast him a lot. And having regenerating mana really is a wonderful thing. It doesn't regenerate very fast with the +1 Crescent Falchion, but generally there's not a time limit to doing things in this game. And I am playing this game cautiously. Okay, so there we go. My full mana bar did almost half its health. Right, so I could wait a few minutes, go and make a sandwich, come back, blast him again, wait another minute or so, blast him, and he'd die, and there's no risk to that. Which should be pretty cool, and if you want to take that approach to the game, good for you. bleeding now. I think 3 or 4 strikes on him gets him bleeding. I don't think he's bleeding enough to actually kill him. Remember the strats from the tutorial, run in and to the left. Crescent Falchion does a lot of damage to him. Quite a few enemies in this game are quite vulnerable to magic, which means this Crescent Falchion is just a fantastic weapon. And here's a lot of players' favourite weapon, the Yuji Katana. A large katana. I don't particularly like the moveset. It does fantastic bleed damage. It does quite a lot of damage. I've seen people be very effective with it in PvP. Certainly sliced me up quite a bit. It's just not my kind of thing. I like the way it's sitting there next to the Vanguard, though, almost suggesting, like, bleed this guy to death. Just going to shoot one of these guys out of the air. You should take opportunities to do that, because the more you shoot while wandering around the level, the less likely they are to kill you when you're edging around a cliff top later on in the level. So now I'm going to go backwards through this sort of small mini fort part of the level. Most people go forwards through this, but generally levels are easier if you go backwards through them, and they're constructed in a way so that they often have multiple routes that you can go through them. So look for opportunities to do this. There's a skeleton just behind this illusionary wall, so I'm walking because I want to backstab him. It's going to be a tasty fight here in a second. Watch me run away. And because the Thief's Ring is so amazing, where I broke line of sight for a while, even though he was attacking me and he knew where I was. I broke line of sight for a while and he forgot where I was, and then I killed him. So here's the second. This is the junction where you're coming in from the right, if you can see that ahead, normally, and those skeletons basically both attack you at once. There are strategies for dealing with that, but I find this route less risky. Okay, so they're both down. Let's go and talk to our friend here. This guy is a great vendor. Well worth throwing him.
Heavens, I suppose I'm grave as thank. Who couldn't?
Why is he so good? So, firstly, because he'll sell Dark Moonstone shards for 3,000 when you see him on the second part of this level later on. Secondly, because he sells arrows, basic arrows for 10 each, which is half the price that the first blacksmith sells them for. Thirdly, because he sells leather armor. So the best armor in the game that's easily accessible is black leather armor, which you can find in, if you don't start with it as a thief, you can find it in World 3.1, the Tower of Latria. It's not that hard to get, but that's not really early on in my route, so I like to come here and buy this armor. It's certainly much better than the armor I'm wearing, because I'm just wearing the gauntlets and trousers of the plate mail, which is quite heavy for the amount of, quite heavy and noisy for the amount of protection it gives. I can get, for a lower total weight, much more protection than what I'm wearing currently gives, and it's not really that many souls, so I'm going to buy all this. I'm going to buy some arrows. I'm not going to buy a bow because I'm about to get one upstairs.
Satisfied.
And
I'll have more for you
later.
next time.
Let's switch that armor, and you'll see what I mean. So these gauntlets, these fluted gauntlets I'm wearing weigh 6.9, and they give, say, 21 physical defense. And these leather gloves weigh 1.8, and they give 17. So 4 less defense for, what is that? You know, nearly quarter of the weight. And as a result of there being quarter of the weight, I can now wear the chest armor and the helmet, which gives much more total overall defense. And it's quieter. I believe that quietness matters. I certainly know it does in later games in the series. You'll notice I'm not making clanking noises as I'm running. Anyway, so we're now going backwards. I want to go and see the Hawk Girl and trade with her to get another key item. So I'm going to go backwards to her via this illusionary wall, fight a couple more skeletons. Oh, that didn't work very well. This could get bad. I'm running away. And sometimes that's the best thing to do. Particularly if you have the Thief's Ring on, and then very much particularly if you have the Cloak Spell. The Cloak Spell, if you run around a corner and cast it, will pretty much make most enemies lose track of you. But they seem to have lost track of me. And they're probably walking slowly back to their spawn point. They seem to have got there. A lot of enemies walk slowly back to their spawn point, asking to be backstabbed. Here we go. Okay, I didn't get backstabbed, but there they are. So you can often recover from quite nasty screw-ups like that one. Going too badly. Hi. And here's this nice compound longbow and a few arrows. Let's stick my normal arrows on while I'm here. And do I have the stats to use the compound longbow? Hopefully. I do, because you're two-handing the bow. And you'll see my quick burden, because I'm now wearing this nice light leather armor, is absolutely fine. I'm still light rolling, and I'm now tooled up with my basic equipment, melee weapon and bow, and then I've got my... Actually, I'm going to swap these around. I'd rather have the bow in my left hand, I think, and the wand in my right hand. But we're good. So let's go and do some trading. This is one mechanic here that annoys the hell out of me, the way you have to reload the game in order to trade with this Hawk Girl.
You! Give me!
But the main thing I want to give her is this telescope.
Spock!
Quickest way to do this is to load your profile. Now, I think I mentioned earlier that the royalty as a starting class is often seen as one of the best or the best because it has the fragrant ring. Here I am, something like an hour and a half, 2 hours into the game. I've done 1-1, about a quarter of 1-2, and I'm now about a quarter of my way into 4-1. And I have the fragrant ring, because you give her the brass telescope, you get the fragrant ring. This is why I don't think the royalty is all that good for an experienced player necessarily.
Spock, Motch, give me, please!
So now, of course, I'm regenerating mana twice. I'm regenerating it with my melee weapon, my Crescent Falchion, and I'm regenerating it with the ring I'm wearing. And I'll be swapping rings. I'll typically, at most points in this game, have one or other of the regenerating rings on. At any given point, I'll have the mana regenerating ring or the health regenerating ring on, both of which are in this level. Might as well give her that more better guidance.
Sparkly, happy.
She's going to give me some white arrows that I'm almost certainly never going to use because I'm a bit of a pack rat and I hoard things, and I tend to use like normal arrows or heavy arrows later in the game and save these white arrows for some mythical moment when I might really need them. Which is pretty stupid basically, I should just use them.
More trade? Give me, please.
Okay, so while I'm here, this there's a crystal lizard down here, but I'm gonna try and shoot from up here so that I don't have to tediously run around this whole circuit again to get the item that's there. Well, I think the item is an ephemeral eye stone, which actually I don't need because of the nature of the run I'm doing. You know, it basically puts you back in body form when you're in soul form, which is irrelevant because I'm doing a no deaths run. But let's try it anyway. Okay, that didn't work. Let's go and kill that lizard. And you see there, the landing when I put it on its back. Oh, I got a chunk as well as 3 shards. You usually just get 3 shards out of that one. That's a good deal. Okay, so we're done with this little fortress. Can't think of anything else I need to trade there. So now I could at this point, what you could do at this point is go, look, I've got the fragrant ring, I've got the crescent falchion, I'm regenerating mana. If I want to regenerate health, I can just get a healing miracle. And move on to another level. That's perfectly valid. However, I think I'm basically tough enough now to go and take on the Adjudicator. Plus there's at least one more really good item. Well, there's 2 more really good items actually on this level. Let's hope I don't regret that decision. So first I'm going to go up here. Very slow climbing up ladders in this game. So that's another one of the stingrays that would be shooting at me later on in the level when I'm edging around cliffs. I want to kill as many of those as possible. Let's jump down here. Kill you with soul arrows because I don't want to aggro this guy. You. Okay, I have another one of these risky fights with one of these black skeletons again because he's guarding the Adjudicator's shield, which is a rather nice shield. Okay, let's go. And you can see that the strategy is essentially roll forwards under their big jumping forward double katana strike and then backstab them. You can also backstab them, they're particularly vulnerable after their single long katana lunge, the one he tried on me after his first jumping attack. They're pretty vulnerable to backstabs there. You backstab them, then you hit them a lot as they're getting up. You do that 2 or 3 times, they die. The problem is, if you mistime that roll, he might kill you in one go. If he doesn't, he's going to do a lot of damage to you. And if you're like me, at that point you probably panic, start playing badly, and probably die. So the Adjudicator's Shield is fantastic. It only has 50 guard break reduction, so less than my shield, my kite shield. It only stops 90% of physical damage, and it is a large shield, so it can't parry. So in all of these ways, it is worse than my kite shield. Against that, it stops 50% of magical damage, which is one of the higher levels in the game. So it is occasionally useful just for that property. But its main property is you regenerate health while you're carrying it. So actually that small amount of physical damage you take when people hit your shield is often more than offset by the fact that you're constantly regenerating health when you're carrying it. And certainly if you are using a two-handed weapon, it is often worth carrying in your offhand as a health regenerating item, unless you have some better, maybe like a good blessed weapon in your other hand. So I'm typically carrying this around, and actually quite often using the Adjudicator's Shield. I'd say it's the, maybe the third best shield in the game. It's a really good shield. And be careful with those arrow traps, because they do an enormous amount of damage if they do hit you. Right, need to be careful here. So, gonna have there's still a couple of stingrays left alive. There's one. I doubt I'm going to be able to hit him. Let's try. Oh, got him. Good. But the problem is now there's going to be a gold. How am I going to approach this? There's a gold skeleton just around this corner, and this is quite a narrow ledge. I might try the soul arrow method. The problem is there is a risk I'm going to fall off the ledge here. I know what I'll do. Let's get rid of that. Let's try the soul remains technique. So soul remains are something that these guys go after. Nope. Okay, I threw that too far. Okay, he should have seen me now. Can I get him to go off the cliff? The trick is getting them to... You can aim them with a bow, actually. Let me see if I can aim this with a bow. I want him to attack so that he falls off the cliff. He's not playing ball, is he? Okay. Standard fight it is. Okay, come on then. Come on. So for anybody thinking, why is this guy so nervous about that particular fight? It's because I've rolled off of the cliff there before, and then further along this cliff I've managed to backstab one of these gold skeletons off the cliff, and then fall off the cliff after him in the backstab. animation. So I've just become a little bit more nervous about it recently. So if you've got a clear line of sight, you can use soul arrows to put them up like this. And even if they're blocking, they're taking more than half the damage from the arrows. Should probably have done that on the first guy once I actually had clear line of sight on him around the corner. This was the guy I backstabbed off the cliff. That's actually how Blood Raven died. Wooden beam here. We can get the Grave Robber's Ring, which I'm not sure I've ever used actually. It is. It does give a slightly better stealth against Black Phantoms, which could potentially be useful in the swamp against the Meat Cleaver Black Phantom. But I don't tend to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch. There's a crystal lizard up here that gives Dark Moonstone that I would like to kill. It's not the end of the world if I don't. I don't want to run off the cliff. So I'm going to use a combination of spear and soul arrows to try and kill it. Now, one of the things about the spear, by the way, that's useful on if you've got a level where you can fall off cliffs, is that when you've got your shield up and you stab with the spear, you do not move your feet at all. So almost all the other weapons, when you attack, you move your feet forwards one way or another. And even if you don't have your shield up, you see I'm stepping forwards though when I'm attacking. So that's a really useful property of the spear. Okay, just bear that in mind. It's occasionally useful. Right, let's go for this. Great. A little ledge up here. I didn't know about this when I did my first run through. There's a little ledge up there. And here is the Regenerator's Ring. There's 2 copies of this. The other one is in 5.2 in the swamp. So now, let's look at this. We have 2 ways of regenerating mana, and we have 2 ways of regenerating health. We are now basically massively tooled up compared to where we were an hour ago. And this is why I essentially do 4.1 very early in most of my new Death runs. Okay, let's switch back to the Crescent Falchion. There's one more black skeleton through here. I love that little noise they make as they die sometimes. Okay, and here we are at the Adjudicator, the boss of the level. So the traditional strategy for killing the Adjudicator is to strike at the blade that's embedded in the side until it falls over and then hit the bird. Perfectly valid, works really well, very low risk. There's a second strategy to doing it that I don't think many people use, which is to stay up a bit higher and shoot it in the head. And you can do that with a bow, or you can do that with soul arrows. And hoping I don't die like an idiot demonstrating it, I'm going to demonstrate that strat to you now. And which rings do I want? So I don't need the Thief's Ring. You almost never need Thief's Ring for bosses. Is there any other ring that would be better? Okay, let's try the Regenerative Ring. Let's hope I don't forget to take that that ring off after the fight. That can be inconvenient. So, for what it's worth, I will be regenerating some health in the fight. Let's take that off. Let's take that off. And I suggest you do this. Get in the habit of doing this before any major battle. You know, just take a look at your equipment and make sure you're wearing, you know, just really what's optimal. Okay, that seems fine. And we're at full health. We're at full mana, and I'm going to go in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run down. I'm going to run immediately forwards and to the right, because the first thing the Adjudicator does as soon as you run in is his tongue comes out and he breaks the it's usually the floor that you're standing on, so the floor immediately on the other side of this fog gate. But if you run forwards and to the right, there's a set of stairs that go down, and so you can run down, and what I'm going to try and do is stay on more or less the middle level, just slightly above his head, so I can see the bird and keep shooting the bird with soul arrows until it dies. And I'm going to be dodging tongue and sword attacks as I do. Now, if that starts going wrong, I might jump down, at which point I might start meleeing it, or you know, revert to the other strategy, or I might then run back up the stairs and start shooting it again, or I might screw up and die. But let's see how we go. You know, I'm going to shut up now, and I will see you on the other side. Let's do this. Come on. Up. Out of mana. Okay, so you get the idea. Not brilliant execution, but you know, it's a perfectly viable strategy, and one I've killed it with a number of times. I think that's certainly no harder than the other strategy. Typically, it only really attacks with 2 attacks when it's in, when you're up on that middle layer. That vertical sword stroke is quite easy to dodge, and it otherwise uses a tongue swipe, which is a bit harder to dodge, but easier to run around away from. So I'm just going to collect a couple of bits in here. And there we have 4-1 done. So, quick bonus bit here. Venture into 4-2. Grave Rob Oblige has obliged by coming down here, where we can now buy, you can see, Dark Moonstone if we want to. He's still selling arrows, which is great, because we need a lot of those. And he's generally in a good position just after the 4-2 Archstone to supply us in the future. So a lot of players will know about this area where you can shoot this Reaper. I better get a move on because his minions are about to hit me. In fact, I can dodge because I suspect they're right there. Where did that Reaper go? Okay. That's not so good. Okay, you kill the Reaper here, all his minions die, you gain loads and loads of souls. This is the first really good soul farming area. I think you get about 4,500 souls every time you do this, and it's easy to reset just by going back to the Nexus. Costs about 5 or 6 arrows a time max, and you also get a shard of Dark Moonstone every time you do it. Okay, he's down there, which is not the end of the world. Okay, that guy's creeping up on me. Let's kill this one. They have quite high magic resistance, actually, these guys. Very reminiscent of creatures out of Princess Mononoke. Alright, let's finish that Reaper off. And he's dead. Let's put the Thieves Ring back on. And I think I'll keep the Regeneration Ring on. So between that shot of Dark Moonstone, that shot of Dark Moonstone, the 3 I got of the Crystal Lizard earlier, I definitely got enough to get this this Crescent Falchion to at least +2, if not +3, as soon as I can get to Blacksmith Head, which will probably be my next priority once I get back to the Nexus.
Oh, the demons haven't got to you. You see, go on, that's it.
Hi, Patches. Kick me. Okay, and I'm down here, and I just like doing this just to rescue Saint Urbane as soon as I finish 4.1. Oh look, there's 2 more shards of Dark Moonstone, so I should definitely have enough to get a +3 Crescent Falchion, which is, at this stage in the game, a horrendously potent weapon, both in terms of mana regen and the amount of damage it does. So, there's the black Phantom guarding the exit here that you have to kill in order to both escape and rescue Saint Urbane, that uses twin katanas. Now this guy's not too hard, but he does do a lot of damage, and I'm pretty confident I could take on the Falchion here, but if you are not, can I recommend a spear and a good shield?
Heavens, but pray with Umbas.
And again, hopefully I'm not going to embarrass myself here. He's just not very good against shields. Because you can do this. Heal this off. If I time it right, I should roll backwards, that's safer. It's slow, but it's safe. Now see how open he is after he attacks. Backstab. And see how little damage he's doing to my shield. And in fact, because he's using a hiltless, he's doing damage to himself every time. When I say damage to my shield, I mean look at my endurance bar. So just with a good shield, a spear, and some patience, and you could do this with a rapier as well. Anything that can attack with a shield up, you will take this guy down no problem. And we get 3 chunks of Dark Moonstone from this guy, which is really useful. Again, for upgrading our Crescent Falchion.
Oh, did you cleanse God Umbas?
And that means Saint Urbain is free. We can go and tell Patches he's a dick, but could he kindly come to the Nexus and start selling us heavy arrows? And then go back to the Nexus ourselves. An optional thing you could do here is go and fight the black skeleton in the slightly secret area near here. Thanks for the useless ring. And then go and kill the crystal lizard that's on the cliffside here. I'm not going to do that. It's a little bit risky, mainly because of cliff edges. Cliff edges and the fact that you've got to do that fight whilst a stingray is nearby. I might do that a bit later. I don't really need to right now because I've got the materials, I think, to get the Crescent Falchion to +3, and I would rather focus on getting more powerful in other ways. But that was a useful diversion into 4.2. I'd recommend you do that once you finish 4.1. And look how little playtime we have here, and how powerful we are already just by virtue of having some really, really great equipment. And also look at that soul count, 27,000, nearly 28,000 souls. World 4 is really, really generous with souls. And you can just keep coming back and farming that Reaper and getting 4,500 souls a time at the cost of a few arrows, almost completely risk-free, and you'll get a shard of Dark Moonstone every time. It's and you know, if it's a no-death run, why wouldn't you farm? If it was your own life on the line, of course you would. Okay, so I'm going to leave you there for tonight, and think about how I'm going to spend these gorgeous souls, and think about what to do next time, which is probably going to be either go to... Well, there's some options here. We could go to 1.2, finish that off. That doesn't give us too much because we've already got a good bow. We've already got the wing spear and the catalyst out of World 1.2, which are the main things out of there. But you know, it may not be a bad thing to kill off the boss of 1.2, and that's quite fun. And there is a crystal lizard there, which we could get some stones out of. We could go to 2.1, we could do that. That would open up the blacksmith. I mean, to me, that's probably the most obvious next thing to do, because that would let us power up the Crescent Falchion, power up various other weapons and shields. It's not a very interesting level, but it would, it's the next obvious survival thing to do. Or, potentially start looking at 3.1 and 5.1. And the combo 3.1 and 5.1 gives us Sage Frake, the magic trainer, and it gives us the Soul of the Leechmonger, and the combination of those gives us the Poison Cloud spell, which is probably the most useful spell for getting past some of the trickier enemies in the game, and another one of the keys to my style of no deaths run. Anyway, so I'll think about that. I'll think about what to spend these souls on, and I'll get back to you next time. Thanks for watching.